Good evening, workshoppers. We got a special episode here tonight. As I promised on the last episode, we're going to be going through and spending a lot of time talking about Diablo Immortal, as well as a lot of the things that we've been going through and learning. But on this episode, I'm actually joined by a special guest, aka Snuggie, who's going to be going through and joining me, talking a little bit about Immortal, some of our thoughts on the alpha, but we are going to be deep diving into some of the lore, or maybe some of the lack of lore that we've been going through and seeing in the alpha so far. And so without further ado, sir, if you would care to introduce yourself to everybody here in the chat that might not be familiar with you, if you, by all means, plug yourself, who you are, what you do, and why are you on my lawn?
Hey chat, hey workshop, my name is Chris, aka Snuggie. I play video games, sometimes on Twitch, and yeah, I do it for fun, do it for the community, hang out. It's always a good time when you're getting around the Diablo community. But I'm on my lawn because I heard that you have good beverages, so I came to get some of that and sit around the campfire and talk about lore.
You know, that would actually be like one of the greatest things ever to go through and actually
right now.
Right? To go through and like get like a group chat together around a campfire to discuss like Diablo stories and such. It's such an iconic scene too, you know, because that's of course the the D2 character intro around the campfire. You literally start there at the campfire in D2. That would be that'd be good. That'd be good. We have to I'm gonna like Google like campsites in California. That maybe we could do something for next BlizzCon.
Yes, I am very much looking forward to the next BlizzCon when we can actually, talk about things in person and not have to coordinate of me different ways through the interwebs.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also speaking of BlizzCon, I do have to give you a special shout out because this man is responsible for me spending so much additional money at BlizzCon. And I am forever thankful. You probably have heard me go through and give him a shout out. It has been a while since then, but we've got like you can't really see it in the background, but where's my finger? The Lilith badge, the special collector's edition Lilith badge, and then on the proper side of my body, if I move my head, I don't do this too often, the Birth of Sanctuary print over there in the background. This man was actually responsible for going through and getting me the hookup so that way I could go and get those lovely pieces of collector's just cocaine, more or less, as I continue to add to my growing Diablo collection, which I'm running out of space to put anything.
That was actually I'm trying to think of how many people went before me in the other line. I think that was actually the third one sold at BlizzCon. And it was great. I wish I could have gotten more than one because I bought it. We had talked about it. I bought it, and then I was going and leaving, and a random person walked up and said, "Hey, is that the D4 print?" I said, "Yeah." And they go, "I'll give you $600 for it right now." I went, it's not mine. He's like, "Totally would take you up on that, but it doesn't belong to me." Mm-hmm. Somebody already kind of promised they would take it, so yeah.
It gets better because what was it? I think Eldorian was actually messaging me that like that particular print, some people have been selling for like $800 or like $2,000 in like the Facebook trade groups and such. No idea if it actually sold at those prices, but it's just like, wow.
It was. We checked it, and there were some listings on eBay that night because some people actually got the print, picked it up, and then immediately started getting signatures on it all over the place, and then just toss it up on eBay. They're like, I can charge triple the price.
Yeah. But for me, it's probably once we actually go through and move out of this apartment into some place a little bit more permanent, it's going to be getting framed and going up on the wall somewhere. Probably in the living room, much to Neve's dismay, I'm sure. I don't know if you could hear that, but she just screamed no from the living room.
No, I couldn't hear it, but that's perfect.
But yeah. But yes. So we do have some Diablo news to talk about before we go through and jump into the lore talk.
Yes.
So some little minor things that have gone through and popped up. About a week ago, someone went through and found that on the Blizzard CDNs, a new development build of Diablo 2 Resurrected was uploaded. CDNs is a content delivery network, so that's where they upload like the PTRs, patches, other things of that nature. And if you know where to look for this type of stuff, you can see whenever it updates. So there's a whole big community and data miners and such that have this whole thing like all worked out well beyond my level of comprehension. And they found that there was a new developer build that got updated.
I know where to look for, because I didn't know that you were going to bring that up.
It's the first thing in the show notes.
I didn't make the connection that that was that.
Yeah. But
I know where to look for.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that it's like it's always cool. We have no idea what it means, but it at least means that work continues to move forward in D2R, and that
as far as the technicalities on that, sorry, Nine. As far as the technicalities on that, because I feel like I should explain myself on that. My day job, I work for a company that does portion of the company does content delivery using CDNs. I can neither confirm nor deny that I know the hierarchy of certain structures and places and things, but a lot of corporations, a lot of companies use more than one. So it's, if they are actually, data mining, then more power to them, because there's lots of different places where you have to get that information. So if you are getting excited about something because of leaks, because of data miners, know that they put in a lot of effort to find that information.
Oh yeah, I just know that even just one of the data miners over at Diablo Fans, like he's been like going through hard at work, just going and ripping into the Diablo Immortal, and he's actually found the all of the legendary items, including the ones for the Necromancer. So he's managed to go through and find the information and the code for the class that's not yet in the game, for us to go through and test out, and gives us some idea at least on how the Necromancer might end up playing. But we'll talk about Immortal in a little bit. But as far as what this means for D2R, unfortunately we have no idea. It just means that they've updated something. There could be another alpha coming along the way, but with the Immortal Alpha going strong, I don't expect it anytime soon. It probably is still at least a little ways off, especially given the way that the timing between the hastened D3 season launch, then the shortness of the D2R technical alpha, followed up almost immediately by the Immortal closed alpha, that I feel as if we're just going to be playing leapfrog over the next couple of months, in between content.
Without a doubt. Everything that is currently going on in the realm of Diablo, this entire year and probably bleeding over into next year, maybe
For
even
sure.
half of the year next year, is going to be nothing but rolling contents, almost overlapping each other. You know, like Diablo Immortal closed alpha is going to end, and then 2 weeks later we'll get another closed invitation testing on D2R, or uh, Diablo 3 new season is coming up. They make announcements about that, and they'll make a new press release about something that is exciting about their upcoming titles, or something that they're changing within Diablo 3. That more than likely won't happen, but still, you can be optimistic that they're still making huge changes to Diablo 3. But D2R and DI, I anticipate them being at the forefront of everything Blizzard leading up until beginning of next year.
Oh yeah, easily. That does actually go through and segue into the next topic, that they just had a recent investors call over at Activision Blizzard, where they have again reconfirmed that Diablo Immortal is on track to release in 2021. It's strange. They're going through it in the investors' calls. They're going and saying, "Oh yeah, 2021, it's on track. Our target is 2021." But then in the actual developer blog announcing the closed alpha, they still say, "We have no release date to announce at this time." So I guess it's one of those. It's not 100% locked in, but they're telling their shareholders it's coming this year.
I mean, I've just been telling people when they ask about it, it is coming before December 32nd. That's all we know. That's all we know.
It is. It's one of my favorite ones. Is PvP and Battlegrounds is coming to Diablo 3 in patch 1.10. We're still waiting for 1.10. I know they went from 1.8 to 2, but there's still that possibility. They can always come back and do it. Waiting for it. They're gonna.
Like I said, they could make a big change. You never know.
Longtime listeners, they're probably sick of hearing me go through and talk about this, but the changes that they made for this Diablo 3 season are huge. Like, just how much that they changed in the back end and engine changes in order to go through and make like that emanate system, and then like rebuilding like the followers from the ground up. That took a lot of effort, and if they're willing to go through and do that much in this season, has been extremely popular. Most of the content creators and such have been going through and doing a lot of focus on like Diablo Immortal, and there wasn't any new seasonal theme, so even some of the bigger streamers, like Bloodshed and such, that have like gone back to Diablo 3 from Immortal, have now like gone and started playing other games. That isn't to say that if you actually go through and you look at the number of people that are online like in Diablo 3, and how much communities and public games and stuff like that are going, this has been an extremely popular season, for the vast user base of the game, besides just looking at like the top end visible streamers and such. So this is a change that brought in a lot of people. You can expect, we'll probably see maybe not things quite of this nature every patch, but they're willing to do big changes like that. I can hold out hope that PvP will be one of them one day, but
hopefully.
I mean, good luck on that one. I've talked about this in previous episodes, but how do you scale and balance a game where some characters do millions of damage and other characters do quadrillions of damage?
Mm-hmm.
You can't. That's just
thankfully in Immortal it's only thousands,
right? Yeah, Immortal is just thousands, and the thing that causes the damage numbers in Immortal to scale from like 1,000 to 20,000 and such is like the offense defense ratings, which works differently in PvP, so that multiplicative scaling modifier doesn't apply in PvP. So it helps balance and rein things in. At least that's what the tooltips say. I've not actually seen like a lot of testing to see how much that plays into effect, but
and I'm sure we'll get it eventually. It's just for now, and even when the tooltips are contradictory, you're just like, yeah, okay, no, I'm gonna
It's
pick that one. We're going off that one.
Yep, and it's alpha, so
Yeah, it's alpha.
it's alpha. That's a great fallback, it's like, it's alpha.
It's alpha.
Yeah. And while we're talking about the alpha, we could probably go ahead and just jump into everything and anything Immortal at this point. The North American server was a little bit delayed. I had talked about this previously with my very bad Pokemon singing, about the cycle of strife and wanting to be an immortal versus the shadows and such. And on the Australian server, they actually have like a fully populated server. They've got a lot of people on there, and so they were able to take over from the NPC Immortals the first Sunday that the Rite of Exile was available, because they just had the people to fill out the dark houses. Whereas on the NA server, everybody was in one house, and then because everybody was in the one house, the other houses, either there was confusion, that people didn't understand what it was that they had to do, or time zones, because you have a lot of content creators from Europe and such, that it's just like the cycle rolls over. The thing that you have to do for the Rite of Exile is happening 3 o'clock in the morning, that it's like, that's not happening. So we failed. The Immortals won as soon as the event started, because you have the way that and this is something that I see a lot of questions, and people even in Discord and such are still confused as, the Rite of Exile is the PvP component that causes the cycle to turn, where the shadows overthrow the Immortals, and it's 10 8-on-8 matches that is divided up by the Immortals selecting 10 groups of 8, so the Immortals will have to elect 80 people to go through and fight on their side. And then on the dark houses, the top 10 dark houses elect 8 people in order to go through and fight for their side of it. I've seen a lot of people back and forth between the Shadows win ties, the Immortals win ties. So I'm not sure if it's that the Shadows have to win 5 matches or 6 matches out of the 10 in order to roll it over. But on the NA server, only 3 houses showed up, so we lost by default. Because as soon as the event started, the Immortals had 7 wins, because just no one on the opposing side even showed up. I think we only won 2 of those 3, because the third one was just a single guy, and so he actually ended up losing to the Immortals. And so there was some shenanigans, and we had to shuffle things around. I know I broke off from Ascendant Rax's house in order to go through and help out another smaller house in order to get in, and we did it. We won. I think we won. I think it was 7 or 8. I think it was 8-2 for the dark houses.
I believe.
Yeah, because the immortal NPCs were honestly pushovers. Sure, the 8 versus 1, he wasn't able to beat it. But then, like, in the match that I was in, I think we were like 6 versus 8, and it wasn't a contest. They folded just as soon as they entered the screen. It was bad. It was really bad.
Yeah. And I think so. As far as the structure of it, and this was something I was talking to somebody else about. There's not much incentive, at least as far as our understanding. There wasn't much incentive at the time for the other teams to show up, for the other dark houses to show up the first week, because if you have literally everyone in one dark house and they are all going to benefit, if you're not in that house, why go and help overthrow the Immortals when it isn't the biggest house already? And we're kind of seeing that now, as far as we have the Immortals, at least the player base does. It's not NPCs anymore. But something I think people are realizing is we don't have the numbers that the Aussies do, like flat out. But defending wise, whenever it comes time for that Circle of Strife to come back around, which I believe is going to be next week, because it's week on, week off,
As long as there's enough shadows in
Yeah.
order to get them back up to the Rite of Exile in a week.
And that's the thing. I don't think we will,
Yeah.
because right now with the Immortals, we can't even do Keon's ordeal, because you need a certain amount of Essentia. You need 30,000. We're only at 11,000, and we only gained, I think, 8 or 9,000 last time I checked in today, because it tells you the daily progress.
Yeah, I think that was actually a similar issue on the Aussie server, is that they missed their first Keon's ordeal just because the way that the Immortal swap over works. It's time gated in the beginning. With the amount that you're able to do and unlock, and your rewards increase over time as you're able to do more daily activities and such. And so it's going to be that once we get into the next week, our rate of Essentia gain will increase to where it's not going to be as nail bitey as it is to make sure that we get Keon's ordeal unlocked every week.
And the thing of it is, as far as the Immortals, I think the concept is great. The Immortals and the Shadows, I think the concept, the lore behind it is great.
Yeah.
But in practice, when it goes into, beta, we'll see more of it, and then full release, you'll have such a flood of a player base. I'm wondering if, like, some of the smaller dark houses, what if they're never going to get to a point where they can overthrow the Immortals? The Immortals, it's going to be key for their leader, whoever the Immortal is, to keep on track. They're almost like a guild leader, because that you have to keep on track with. Do you have an active membership? Are you logging on and doing your dailies to benefit us? Are you geared enough to actually help protect everything that's going on? Because the Immortals is so large. You've got 150, I think it is right now.
Yep.
So split that in half. You have to take at least 80 people to defend when you're getting attacked. So you can't have all of your alts within there. You have to have every spot counts, because time zones, like we mentioned. That's a big thing with a lot of the timed events is, for people elsewhere outside the United States, it's happening the middle of the day, late at night, or whatever the case may be. And at least right now, playing alpha, if I had to wake up at 4 a.m. to do it, it's alpha. I'm not long run going to see any benefit from that. So
especially 4 a.m. Monday, so that's one of the ones that definitely makes it a lot rougher. And and like you said, that's just an issue that we're having in the alpha, particularly on just like the NA, the content creator server. We don't have the numbers, and then even when we do have the numbers, it's split between vastly different time zones. That makes coordinating difficult. But as far as it goes, like for actually like to look at the more the bigger picture, say once the game itself goes live, for like the dark houses to actually want to go through and compete, we got to see, at least in the the event that we're actually currently in with the holdover between the cycles, that everybody benefits. If you were a shadow, if you were a shadow, you get a benefit. You could be like the 70th largest dark house, never even competed in the Rite of Exile, but you'll get special bonuses going into the next cycle. I think that I got like just 5% max HP. I've seen other people that get like damage or crit bonuses in addition to the max health benefit. Tons of honor, which is a really powerful currency for buying buy almost everything in the game. You can buy legendaries, you can buy legendary gems, you can buy legendary crests, which get you legendary gems. You can buy it's your best source of farming charms. gems, crafting mats, reforged stones, at least the free random reforged stones. The honor is an incredibly powerful currency, and you get a ton of it. I think I got like 4,000 honor at the event swap over. And then just this week, everybody, whether you are a shadow, an immortal, or just an adventurer, you get a daily login bonus that benefits everybody. And then as far as like those top 10 dark houses that are actually able to compete in the Rite of Exile, those bonuses for just competing in the Rite of Exile, if you win, are pretty decent. Like a guaranteed legendary, honor, marks, which matters if you're a shadow and such. So there's actually a pretty good incentive that even if you're not the top dark house, that you're getting some decent rewards so long as you win your match when you go into it, even if you're number 10. That there's incentive that, I'm going to get some pretty decent rewards for going through and doing this. And of course, if you were one of the people that competed in it, when the top dark house flips over and becomes the Immortals, you can be like, hey, I won you your match. Where's my invite? Because one of the things I see with the Immortal and the Shadows, the Cycle of Strife, is going to be a lot of psychology. There's going to be a lot of human behavior studies in politics that go into this.
Diablo style.
This is definitely going to be a very, very political system. I can already see it now, vying for who does or gives what or anything like that. Because that could be one of the things that you were mentioning, how the Immortals are set up almost as a guild, because you've got the Immortal who's like the guild leader, and then you have 4 lieutenants. It could be that the top house and then the next 4 biggest houses are all like, well, I'm the leader of the 3rd largest dark house, so if you want me to fight in the Rite of Exile to go through and help you out, I need to be guaranteed a lieutenant position. All the wheeling and dealing and backstabbing that can go through and come of that, of course.
It's gonna get interesting.
I wish.
I will say though, it was felt heavily yesterday and still some today, about losing the buffs that you had as a shadow, because you get massive buffs to your offense and defense rating the more that you put into it and the more that you leveled up. And by that point, a lot of people were starting to get into Whisper, the top tier, where you have these massive buffs that are consistent. It's not just while you're running around things. They're consistent buffs. And currently, becoming an Immortal, it's only the top players that are getting the way overpowered buffs.
You got nothing.
You can party up with them and benefit from that a little bit, but it's such a small collective that if you're trying to party up with them, that becomes political in and of itself.
I do think that if again, this is one of those ones where it's like, looking at the tooltips, I think this might just be a nature of an issue with the alpha, because like that offense and defense bonus, which caps out Whisper 4 was 34%. So if you were a shadow at the highest rank that you could get, which was Whisper 4, you did 34% increased damage and took 34% less damage.
Yeah.
But in the tooltips, it said that should only be applying to PvP. Yes. So once the game itself actually goes live, hopefully that discrepancy will not be there.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people were doing the very high level CRs and super up there, and they actually reap benefit from that, because the higher you go, the more rewards you get. So kudos to them for being able to pull that off, if it is going to change. But it was very much felt by a lot of people losing those buffs.
I've hit a plateau in my challenge rifts, one under my highest clear at the moment. Because even though my offense and defense rating are higher than when I originally done it, and I'm not getting the high monster difficulty, warning anymore, they just hit me so hard that I can't survive.
I've kind of plateaued, but it bounces back and forth because my offense and defense rating is so low in comparison to a lot of other people. Like, I just broke 2600 today, but that is because I did a lot today. I went, oh well, now I have eternal orbs I haven't used. I have the massive amount of honor that I got that I didn't actually spend. I got into reforging a lot because I finally got my item ranks to where I could have reforges. Granted, it's not triple reforges like some people who have like level 6, rank 16 items.
Yeah.
I've got it high enough that I could actually do that, and having that raw primary attribute buff, and I still think it's interesting that it doesn't matter what the attribute is, so long as it's just plus whatever, then that rolled into the total of what your offense rating is going to be. And it's alpha.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to change, but that's the way it currently is.
It's definitely an interesting system where you're just trying to grab any of all stats. And the more stats you have, just because your offense and your defense rating determines the level of difficulty or the level of difficult content with which that you can compete in. And then after that, because that's the single most important stat that there is in the game, and then afterwards you care about damage and armor and crit chance. It's like, I prefer strength over fortitude or vitality over willpower. Those questions only come into play after I have the most of whatever stat that I can get. Oh, I found a triple statted item. It no longer has strength, so I'm losing a lot of damage, but it just gives me so much more offense rating. It does not matter.
Yeah. It makes it negligible as far as the damage that you're losing. You're still gaining the buff on all the other aspects that you would possibly need.
It does, at least like in the beginning, make it cool because every new piece of gear that you find is potentially an upgrade. Oh, is a triple stat. Oh, is a triple stat. Like, I'm still using, I think, like a level 48 helm that rolled triple stat, and I've not found anything anywhere close to it. I might be using this helm for the rest of the beta or the rest of the alpha just because it's so well optimized. But that's part of the item hunt. I was running around for forever. I think I was like Paragon 29 before I found an upgrade for my weapon, like the first 55 that I had gotten, just even though it was only single stat, just because no dual or triple stat weapons ever dropped for me. And so it was still one of those ones that it's like, oh, a weapon dropped. Is it an upgrade? Is it an upgrade? It's like, and so it still has some of those components where I'm going and looking at the gear. Is an upgrade yet? And I've even had a couple of ones where it's like I had triple stats that were, at least they were within like 2 or 3 stats of one another. Oh, but it's like it was a fort vit will piece I was replacing with like a strength fort vit, and it was just like, I'm taking the strength. Like, I'm losing like 4 offense rating, but I don't care. I'm gaining 80 strength out of this item.
Yeah. So, with regard to that, what has been, because we had the change in content, because we have Immortals now, and we have all this, all the shadow stuff is gone, at least for the time being. What has been your favorite part of the new content, or what are you looking forward to as far as the Immortals and then the Circle Strife rolling back around?
I am looking forward to defending the vault, the impromptu PvP, that's going to go through and come from the vault. I think that one's going to be interesting, and I'm going through and looking forward to trying that out. At the moment, we're in a 1-week lull period. There can be no new shadows until Monday. So we've got to wait till Monday before there can be any shadows. So no one's going to be raiding the vault anytime soon. But once that happens, we're going to get that ping. It's like, oh, someone screwed up while running the vault. We got to go in there and defend it. I'm looking forward to that type of content. I think that's going to be interesting.
I am too. The trial practice run that they have you do of Keon's Ordeal, I really liked, because I think it's interesting that not only do the 4 teams split up and go tackle all different NPCs, fight the bosses, and then come back, there is a center beacon, and you have 4 different corners. Each one represents an item. Go stand where you want. You have one choice, and good luck on whether or not you get the piece.
Yeah. So it's
I think that's very interesting.
That's definitely gonna be, again, it's all about politics. It's just it's like, who's gonna go through and get it. I think I don't know if it's like, if it in the actual event, if it's gonna be a legendary, because I just got a yellow. I would assume that in the real event is going to be like 4 legendaries that get handed out, like guaranteed. And so it's just kind of like one of those little bonuses. The leader could just go through and come in, and it's like, nobody stand on armor. You stand on armor, you're getting kicked. Because they need a new piece or something like that. But it should be interesting to go and see how that plays out once we unlock the ability to do Keon's Ordeal.
I didn't even think about that, but I may steal that from your book. It's like, if I'm leading everyone, just be like, if you stand on weapon, you're banned.
You're banned. Because in addition, completing the Keon's Ordeal also just gives like a ton of items into the vault, because at the end of every week, the items, gold, and honor that have all been put into the vault will get distributed across everybody. And the more that you contribute, that's the one system I'm still not quite sure on. I don't know if Rax and crew are going to be the ones that actually determine who gets what piece, or if it's just randomly given out based on your level of involvement. But I do know that your level of contributions open up the amount that you can receive.
It's like an automatic DKP system, but you're right. In what we were reading, Rax, Rob, Echo Hack, all discussing it, the tooltips read one way, and then if you look at one place, it says one thing, and you look at another place, it alludes to another thing. So, alpha.
Yeah.
Sounds interesting. How is all this stuff going to appeal to non-elite players? Green Manalishi is asking in chat. So it does apply greatly to non-elite players, because even if you aren't in the top 0.01 percentile of players that, this is all they do non-stop, there are still many benefits that you can get from it just by being a shadow, being in a dark house, going and competing in that stuff. You still reap rewards even if the Circle of Strife ends up a failure. And we did see that last week, because we completely got demolished. More than half the teams didn't even show up. The Immortals stayed the Immortals, but we still got stuff from it. And the Immortals changing over this week, we got even more stuff from it. Even though it's like, hey, pat on the back, you didn't make it this time, next time, champ, but here's a legendary.
Yep.
So it will go back and forth, I think. And I think that is something that Blizzard is still considering, because that has been brought up in feedback. At least I know people have mentioned it, that what is the benefits of being an adventurer or a shadow, and trying to figure out whether or not you want to go against the Immortals if you already know that they're so high up you'll never get to that level. Okay, so what else can I do? and how can I benefit otherwise?
And so there are two things to that. So if you're going to be like the non-elite player, you more or less have like two choices, because obviously the Immortals are going to be the elite player, or you know someone that you can get you a spot in, because eventually the Immortals will be 500 players and they only need 80 to be like the top tier to defend their reign. So you might be able to go through and get in and just become an Immortal to play around and have some of those benefits and such. But if you're a non-elite player, you can still be a shadow. You don't even have to join a dark house. You can just be an unaffiliated shadow, and it will unlock certain benefits for you. In the alpha, like that damage and defense bonus applied in PvE, even though we think that it will only be PvP, you get additional quests that you can do for more items, more honor. So you get additional rewards just for being a shadow. But you get to raid the vault. Anybody who's a shadow has the opportunity to go through and raid the vault. And so as the Immortals go and do bigger and better things and put more and more stuff into their weekly vault to get the rewards from, when you go to raid it, you can steal that. You can steal gold, you can steal honor. You're actually taking Essentia away from them, which is their lifeblood for going through and unlocking content. And it seems that once they actually do have items put into their vault, you can steal those too. So you might raid a vault and walk away with like a legendary or two in addition to everything else that you had. And, without even being an elite player, if you're playing just solo, it's not that hard in order to kill all of the wardens that spawn to keep anybody from showing up and ruining your run. So it's all on you. You can keep other players from stopping your run, or if a warden goes through and gets off, you can always just run to the end and bug out. I only made it to floor 2 out of 5, but that's good enough for me. I got some good items, I'm done.
Made it to floor 2 out of 5 and you picked up 2 legendaries and a bunch of golds and stole a bunch of their Essentia that now may put them back in progress. Even if you get because the find party feature I think is amazing across the board. It's slow right now, but on full release I think it's going to be really quick trying to find other people. But even partying up with 2, 1, 2, 3 random people for a vault raid, they're not going to get alerted. It is so easy to take down the singular monsters or spawns that come up and ring the bell.
Yep. And then the one additional thing is you can just stay an adventurer, just completely be removed from the whole Immortal and Shadow conflict. There are it seems that there's only really 2 benefits for being an adventurer. One is that you can level up your Reliquary faster than anybody else because you can get the Scortia. So you get 6 additional Scortia, so you get 50% additional Scortia every day compared to Immortals or Shadows. But also, from what I believe I've seen, is that if you're an adventurer, at the end of the week, once the Immortals unlock their vault and get disseminated all of their rewards, some of those rewards are actually shared with adventurers, and so adventurers will get a little bonus at the end of the week as well. You might not get any items, but you might get some honor and some gold depending upon how good the Immortals did. So if you're just not affiliated in it whatsoever, there's still some potential there for you to get some rewards. I think we'll probably see more about that on the Australian server Monday, once they finish their first actual week of real Immortal content. We hopefully will have some more information on that. And then, of course, once the cycle itself actually rolls over, everybody gets some of the rewards. Everything for the end of cycle adventurer rewards for adventurers was like work in progress. So they didn't have anything yet in order to like reward like adventurers, but you still got some like little bonuses and titles, and then you still get the daily login bonus for going in and doing stuff within the week of the cycle turnover. it looks, so it's really not that bad if you're a non-elite player for just taking a very laid back approach to the cycle of strife. And on the other side of it is like this test is for the cycle of strife, so that's why it looks like at the moment the only thing that there is to do at in game is the cycle of strife. But we're not 60 yet. We don't know what the actual PvE in game content is for the non-elite players. There's going to be more there available. We still have one whole additional zone, more than likely one additional dungeon, and there's the Keon's Ordeal, the PvP raid. There has to be a PvE raid that everybody can participate in. So there's going to be a lot there for the people that don't want to participate in the cycle of strife at all. Or the people that just want to casually approach it. You'll still get plenty of benefits just by being a shadow and doing that minimalistic content.
And real quick, how do you compare dark houses to D3 clans? Because they have there are clans within Diablo Immortal, but it's separate.
Yeah.
Dark houses, you are a collective people that have objectives, that have goals, that have daily things that you can do to better strengthen that collective of people. Clans is much more a social aspect than anything else. But dark houses, you are a collective that is working towards a specific goal because that house is competing against the other houses within the server. So the more you do collectively, the stronger you are and the higher it places you in a possibility of becoming an immortal eventually.
That was so well put. I have nothing additional to add.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
See, I can get things right sometimes.
Some occasionally. We'll give you a pass.
All right.
But yeah, before we jump into the lore, is there anything else that has struck your fancy, in the alpha? Is there any favorite parts that you have? Is there anything that annoys you? Anything that you wish could be improved upon, or that's just not jiving with you?
I have my major complaint, but I've put feedback about it. So resolution is horrendous if you're playing on a tablet. Which that's just a personal gripe, and I know a few other people are playing on tablets and they have that as well. But since this alpha is focused primarily on PvP, I kept wondering why they were able to shoot me from across the map and see me so often, and then after comparison I realized, oh, you have 30% more field of vision than I do. And Green, I'm playing on an iPad mini. The top player on the server, the number one highest Paragon player on the server, is playing on an iPad, and he has the same resolution problem that I do. So it is something that you can work perfectly fine with. It's just when we dive into the battlegrounds, to the PvP, to Circle Strife, Keon's Ordeal, everything like that, if you're on a mobile device, you can see so much more.
I think the from some of the discussions in the Reddit Immortal, the unofficial Diablo Immortal Discord, that the top meta is the Android or the Samsung Fold has the highest resolution, because basically what he's going through and talking about is on the tablet you're kind of like a 4:3, and then the phones are a widescreen, so you have a larger viewing angle, and then the Fold is even bigger, and so you get to see even more of the screen as it's because on the tablets and such it just kind of gets cropped down.
I don't know if it was shared there, I actually have the image that we created along with Maxroll, because one of Rax's mods put it together with two of my screenshots from my iPad and my iPhone 11, and then somebody else with a Galaxy Fold, and it is kind of ridiculous when you look at it, because it is overlaid correctly, but the uh, actual resolution of things, the field of view, is dramatically different. And legitimately, that I think that has been one of my only complaints about Alpha. There are certain little nuances of things that I don't quite understand why Blizzard is handling the mechanics that way. But as far as everything else, I've just thoroughly enjoyed going through the content. And I think a lot of people, because not everybody naturally has had hands-on with it, it's amazing to me how much daily content there is to do, especially if you're playing more than one. If it is casually, there's so much that you can do on a daily basis in order to continue to level up and progress. And uh, that is just what they have currently. I know they're going to add to that and add different things that you could possibly do, whether you're adventurer, shadow, immortal, whatever the case may be. And that's something I actually look forward to. The battle pass. I don't. No, excuse me. The battle pass isn't my big issue, other than resolution. It's alpha. I'll preface this with it's alpha. I hate level gating content. And there are 3 separate points within current alpha where it is level gated. And it is very difficult to counteract that, because my monk, which is my second tune, I legitimately went, everything I saw I killed, every world quest I picked up I did. I played through it as quickly but as completely as possible, and I still hit 3 instances where I had to grind to get to the next level, or grind to get to the next zone and progress the story. I hate level gating. I know that there is a lot of content they still need to add, and I hope it counteracts that.
The Bilefin, Mount Xavian, and Frozen Tundra.
Yes.
Yeah. It's I hit the same thing, and it definitely was annoying yet better than what it was in the technical alpha.
Yeah.
Yeah, the technical alpha, we actually, I think it was outside of Ashenwald, you hit a level gate every time for everything. So I think I remember getting I had to still gain a level to get into Darkwood, and then I had to gain a couple of levels to get into the Shahazar Sea, and then I had to gain some levels to get into, Zoltan Kuhl's library, and then I had to get a couple levels to get into Bilefin, and so it's definitely progressed a lot smoother. But yeah, I think that is one of those ones where either you can tone down the content in those zones a little bit, or just increase the level scaling of the monsters, just so that way I can just jump into a zone even if I'm 1 or 2 levels below what it should be. Like, isn't that the point of like the offense and defense rating that you're going through and gaining while you're leveling, so that way you can do higher level content before you're ready for it, and yet
but it scales to your level and your ability with your current gear, skills, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, so it definitely is a point that could be improved on the game for certain. How they go about that, whether it be XP scaling, maybe a little bit more benefits from doing like the dungeons, or something along those lines. Because it's even with the battle pass and the XP that you're gaining with the battle pass going on in the background, like with your first playthrough, you're still hitting, those gated levels.
Which I think is interesting that they have the XP cap. I will disagree with you really quickly. I don't think you should get any more benefits from doing dungeons. We're already in an instance where dungeon grinding is the only way to continue to get mats and everything like that. I think there should be more emphasis on world events and on the world's quest as you're going around and collecting more things, because the exploration tab of everything, I don't know anybody that's completed it all. And that, that's something that, looking at it now, I'm like, I want to do that, because there is things that are hard to find. And
how many shrubberies have you shaken?
Yeah. Exactly. But I do like it because and I know people out there will disagree with me, but like I shiny hunt in Pokemon. That's something that I've done for a long period of time as well. And playing Diablo is the same thing to me in a lot of aspects, because I consider it, I'm a rare item finder. And when you're doing, like, especially in Diablo 3, doing GRs over and over again, trying to find better weapons, the little min maxes that you can do, trying to get that much better. Exploration is a key integral part of Diablo, in my opinion. The more that you get around, the more that you look around, the little nuances that you'll be able to find. Like layers, I didn't even know layers was a thing in Immortal until after I hit like Paragon 10.
Well, I mean, a lot of that also has to do, a lot of that also has to do with just the fact that things like layers and a lot of the world events and quests don't unlock until you're max level. You don't get them, while you're going through and doing the leveling process. And
that's what I'm saying. I think they should put that in earlier.
Yeah, because that was actually one of the ones that was actually kind of strange, because the like the haunted carriage was something that you could participate in while leveling in the technical alpha, but is not in the closed alpha. It only comes around once you hit max level. Yeah. But then, like, some of the other like zone properties, such as finding the lost pages in Zoltan Kuhl's library, or finding the mysterious notes in the Shahrazar Sea, those things all are always there. But like other ones, the Ancient Nightmare and the carriage only exist at max level. And what I was saying about the dungeons was more so just for doing something to increase your experience while leveling. Though I do agree with you that there is some balancing that has to be done, once we get to the end game. But I also acknowledge the fact that we don't have end game in the game yet. We only have the cycle of strife. Yeah, we don't have hell. I talked about this on the last episode. We know that the last act that we go to, or the last zone, is hell. And so we don't have that or any of the events that's associated with it. Also, in the character screen, there's one tab that is open that we can't access yet. So there's one more system that isn't even in the game that we haven't been able to mess around with. And
I'm looking forward to it.
Right? I'm definitely looking forward to it as well. But yeah, you want to talk lore?
There's one more question in chat. Think people will have to eventually make the choice between Immortal or Diablo 4?
I don't know. Because I mean, like, it depends on you. Probably, obviously, if you're going to go like hardcore, you're only going to be able to put your time into one of them. Only there's only 24 hours in the day, and you can only grind one game for 18 of those. But I think for most other people, you'll be able to balance your time between both of them. Particularly, I have like a 40-minute commute to work. I normally get all of my bounties done in the morning on my way to work.
Yep.
And
that's something I commented on stream earlier. I'm like, well, people, and we won't get into this, but people, will say, mobile, it's not gaming. Okay, whatever. If 99.99% of apps downloaded anywhere is a game of some sort. But, I said majority of my bounties probably are going to be when I'm sitting on the toilet
Mm-hmm.
because it's so easy to take my phone in there. I normally have my phone in there anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and there are, like I said, there are the little quick things. Like, even if you don't feel like playing Immortal, if you log on and do a couple dailies, do some bounties, you're still progressing,
Mm-hmm.
and you're still getting rewarded for that. And you know, I don't think people are going to have to make the choice. Like, you know, yeah, you might make the choice in between, like, what is your primary game that you're
Mm-hmm.
playing, but I think a big thing to consider is this is going to open a lot of avenues for new people who have never played ARPGs
Oh
or
yeah.
never seen the Diablo franchise.
Uh,
This is going to be huge.
that's I mean that's the whole reason for being for you know, Echo Gaming. You know, he's a mobile content creator. I've talked about him many times on the show, and you know, he's been on the show, and that's one of the things that he's going through and saying that this game is going to change people's lives because they actually get like a full ARPG experience and a full Diablo experience on the phone. And it's going to bring this is going to bring so many people into the franchise to then get the chance to experience Diablo 3, D2R, and eventually Diablo 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% see myself, you know, playing both DI and D4, no problem. I think a better question might be, for a lot of people, which one are you going to play more, D4 or D2R? You know, that one is going to be, that one's going to be, that's a question, but you can always fit Immortal in. You go to the bathroom eventually, you've got a lunch break at work, or just time that you can kill, where you're away from your computer and you got nothing else to do, but you got that phone in your pocket. You know, how many times are you going through and just doing a bounty, and then all of a sudden, oh hey, kill 20 monsters in this zone. Oh hey, there's a purple mob. Oh hey, there's a legendary mob. Ah, a layer just popped up. I've got 5 minutes. You know,
they really do make it easy, especially with the auto navigation. That is so amazing. But yes, lore. Let's get into it.
All right. So this whole show basically came about because you approached me because you wanted to go through and discuss some of the things in Immortal that you've seen or not seen. And particularly you wanted to focus on, you know, characters, like returning characters and such, how they fit within the Diablo franchise as a whole, and whether they're coming back from a previous game or have we already seen them, you know, in a later game. At the moment only D3, well, you know, but maybe eventually D4 or something else.
Yes. I mean, there are the obvious ones that we've seen within Immortal, you know, Decker Kane, obvious. Leoric, Skeleton King, Mad King, whatever you make, you know, your flavor, you know, still same person.
All the above are correct.
Yeah. Zul, which I thought was awesome that you actually saw him in the progression of the narrative. Zoltan, cool. Baal Talrasha, kind of, because it's like a time walking, you know, World of Warcraft style dungeon.
It's not, and I'm thankful for it though, because it's not actual time travel.
Yes,
it's not actual.
It is you going through history.
Yeah,
experiencing history.
I'm going to give you a quick Westmarch Workshop history lesson to go with that. There are two things that annoy me in cinema: establishing shots and narratives that involve time travel. I hate those two things with a passion. So the fact that they went through and had us travel back in time without us traveling back in time, chef's kiss, love it. Sorry, continue.
No, the less than obvious ones were the ones that I found intriguing, like the Countess and the Forgotten Tower. Because it's not one that you immediately jump to, like, oh yeah, I did that before. I used to grind that all the time because, I mean, D2 was so long ago for some of us. But one that, well, we'll get to Vala in a second. One that I didn't make the connection until just the other day was Charcy.
Oh, yeah.
Darcy is in Diablo 2 as the blacksmith,
Mm-hmm.
as the person that you actually talk to all the time. And then it's one of the things that immediately when you get to that Westmarch, like that is the person you're always going to. And even towards, later in game, because Scortia is such a big thing for the Heliquary, you're always going to her if you happen to be in Westmarch. So I thought that was really interesting, but it also made me question, okay, where does she go? Because
Mm-hmm.
you don't see her in D3.
Yeah.
And her story, deep dive lore, yay. Her story as far as being barbarian but never actually experiencing that life, and continuing to be a blacksmith, at least what we know from D2 now into Diablo Immortal years later. I'm questioning whether or not she decided after whatever Immortals in storyline is, whether or not she went to go fight elsewhere, and where that led to.
Yeah. Because that is one of the ones, where that's just one thing that I think Diablo 3 and also to a certain extent Diablo Immortal are missing from Diablo 2 was the gossip that you could go and talk to every NPC and they had some gossip to go through and tell, and it changed
Mm-hmm.
and progressed as you played through the act, and so that they would have new stories to tell,
Mm-hmm.
about that. And that's one of the things, like with Charcy, is like specifically that you learn from other villagers there in the rogue encampment, that when you talk to them, like someone notes that, oh yeah, Charcy has barbarian blood and wants to go out and adventure,
Yeah.
And then you go through, and here we are in Immortal, and well, she's made her way from the rogue encampment at the Tomoy Mountains over to Westmarch, and has
Mm-hmm.
gotten herself set up with a blacksmith and all that, but still has that connection to Deckard Cain. And I do
Yeah.
want to note that I enjoy the quest flow in the closed alpha far more in the technical alpha, because before you played through Wortham, Ashwold, Deadwood, and then Westmarch. And it was just like, you got your quest in Wortham, find Cain in Westmarch. And so you're like playing through all these zones. There wasn't like a good catch from Ashwold to Deadwood. Now
I
you
can
go
see that.
now you go from the cemetery to Westmarch to go through find Cain and such. She introduces you, or actually you find Charcy and she introduces you back to Cain and such.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gives you the lowdown, tells you to go and work with her, and she gives you the tour of the city and all that. But then she tells you that she's got some friends that need some help for you to go through and find, and that's when you come across Akara and the rest of the Sisters of the Sightless Eye that she used to be a part of. And so
Yes.
I felt that is definitely a much better narrative in quest flow, with the way that they're doing it now.
Which is what the other one I was going to bring up is Akara.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I actually was excited to see her in Immortal because she was sassy in D2, as far as I don't want to say it's pretentious, but the way, because of her status and because she can do a lot more than anybody else can. I was excited to see her return.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Vala and what you were promised and what we haven't seen.
I do want to go back real quick, because you
Okay.
went through and you mentioned about like some characters that we don't see in Diablo 3, particularly like Charcy, and we don't go anywhere near the area that Akara would be in.
Yeah.
But do you want to know my thoughts as to where they are in Diablo 3?
I'm curious as to what you think of it, because in my mind, natural progression is, okay, well, if they're here and they're not there, then they must have died at some point.
Yeah.
Because that's what everybody does in this series. If they're there one day, gone the next. Damn, that sucks.
Yeah, Diablo is not kind. This is one I think I talked about like just a couple episodes ago. Diablo is not kind to reoccurring characters, from previous installments. And that's one of those ones that we also kind of learned in BlizzConline, back in February. 90% of all human life on Sanctuary was killed by Malthael and his assault and Reaper of Souls. So
Reaper Souls.
Yeah, Charcy being in Westmarch and then not being in Westmarch in Act 5 of D3. Yep.
Whenever that got said, my jaw hit the ground. I knew it was a lot. But that much?
I had always said that people don't really appreciate the fact that Malthael was committing genocide on the human race, across Sanctuary. Because we saw it in like a little cutscene that a lot of times people probably click through, that like he was dropping the Black Soul Stone itself, not like the Death Orbs or like the Soul Orbs that we saw in Westmarch in the game. That he put the Black Soul Stone itself in Caldeum and like killed the entire city. Like, even though in adventure mode you get to go there and such. This is when I was talking with Riker on his stream the other week, that a lot of the stuff outside of the main story, like adventure mode and such, aren't really canon, because you can go to Caldeum and everybody's alive and everything's like there. But like Malthael sent the Black Soul Stone itself and was like ripping the souls out of everybody in the city. Probably 10% of the people in Caldeum did not live. Caldeum's gone, dead, and so that's just like some of those things where when you go through, where was Charcy in Act 5? She's probably in one of those corpse piles.
She's probably dead.
Yeah, more than likely. And then like Akara, things don't get much better, because the Sisters of the Sightless Eye were originally Amazons, and then they stole a powerful, artifact that was thought to have been of like angelic origin. That they stole it, from the Ascari and ran away, over to the Western continent and hid in the Tamoy Mountains and such. If this is an actual, like, powerful angelic thing, Malthael was probably like, no, you're not gonna fight me at my own game with like, being able to like see the future and stuff like that, the strands of fate. So you're gone. Though in Diablo 4, it's kind of like they mentioned that, the Sisters of the Sightless Eye might be one of the factions that we get to interact with the rogues, so obviously something has survived. Jurassic Park 2.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So sweet.
But, I don't see Akara living past D3, being, the Keeper of the Mirror and such.
But since you mentioned BlizzConline, Leah's supposed to be in this game as a child, and thanks Wyatt, Adria was mentioned as being in this game, and we know we know now Adria's entire story arc and how Leah ties into that, and why Deckard Cain essentially is the cause of all the strife that we go through in the later portion of D3. Do you agree with them being in Immortal?
I guess it kind of depends. Because at this point in the storyline, we know that Adria is going and searching the world for the kind of like the places of power where the prime evils were killed during the Dark Exile, or where some of like the lesser evils like Endariel and Duriel were felled during the events of the hunt for the Dark Wanderer. So she's going around and trying to find these places, because when a demon dies, they mark Sanctuary forever. And a shadow of their soul, or like an echo of their soul, is imprinted upon that area. And that's why you have like demonic possessions. You have like you know, it kind of explains like the whole, you walk into this building and the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, or there's a chill, an unnatural chill that's always in that one back room. You know, it kind of like gives that flavor, that substance as to why these unnatural events occur. Because if a demon died somewhere, a part of them is forever imprinted there. But Zoltan Kuhl found a way to take that imprint and use it as a fishing hook, like a catch, a net, that he can go through and take that lingering essence and bind the demon themselves through that, and then pull them into the Black Soul Stone in order to kind of take benefit of their power. And so at this point in the timeline, that's what Adria is doing. She's either, you know, at this point only a couple years after Diablo 2, she's either ransacking one of Zoltan Kuhl's libraries to figure all this stuff out and learn how to use the Black Soul Stone, or she's already figured it out and is going through and conducting the rituals to begin the process of trapping the souls into the Black Soul Stone. She can't finalize it yet because the Black Soul Stone hasn't been finished. But once it is, it triggers her little traps and pulls everything into it during the events of D3.
Which, you know, just really quick, she is so undersold as a character because she literally goes and gets all of them herself. And everybody kind of writes her off in D3. I'm like, that's one of the most like kick-ass women in the entire franchise, that she was not only able to conceive a child with Diablo, but also get his respect, and she's just a mortal.
And
but yeah, sorry, sidetrack on that.
No, and it's like, and you know, she actually, it talks about that in the Book of Adria, about her like sitting out in the desert calling in Baal's soul, and how she expected to go through and put up a fight, you know, because this is the Lord of Destruction. Of course he's not going to want to go into it. But then he willingly basically walks into the trap. He doesn't try to fight the ritual or anything like that. And she just gets the sense that he's like, oh, I see what you're doing. This is going to be so much fun.
Yeah, this is going to be great.
Yeah, because he just revels in destruction and mayhem and chaos. And so he's like, oh, this looks like this is gonna be a grand old time. So, you know, like, it's just like little bits like that. So please, if you haven't, read the Book of Adria. You know, definitely. But so I could definitely see it coming across Adria at some point, you know, in time right now. You know, maybe because we don't exactly know those timelines, it could be that we run into them because she's now dropping Leah off in Westmarch.
That's what my next question was going to be. Would you think that Leah is born and / old enough to go under Kane's protection at this point? Or do you think there's going to be like some fast forwarding, not time travel, just like, you know, mention at least of that?
So this begins to go into the events of the Order, the prequel novel to Diablo 3. And so we do know that Deckard Cain finds Leah, though it's not Westmarch. It's Chaldeum. Yeah, Leah gets left with the barmaid from the Diablo 1, and she takes her to Chaldeum. So I guess it would be one of those ones Adria would have left her already, because she got left. I can't remember her name. What is her name? The barmaid from Diablo 1, because she gets left with her, but they, you know, flee before. You know, and that kind of like, there's like a 1 year period of time between Diablo and Diablo 2. And so Adria gets her to take the baby and leave. And so they go east, always into the east. and they end up in Chaldeum, and that's where Deckard Cain, runs into her to go through and find. So maybe we will run into Leah, but we won't run into her in Westmarch. I think it's going to be the way that things would be tying up at this point in time might be a little bit too early for Cain and Leah to meet.
Gillian.
There we go. Gillian.
Yeah. Or Jillian, depending on where you come from.
Fair.
Accents.
Yeah. But yeah, that's one of those ones where I guess it's because there's not in the order. It doesn't say like how old Leah like actually is, so we don't really have a gauge of at what point in the story it's taking place. It might be interesting to see Leah before, she's starting to come into her powers. Just as a little tiny 5-year-old, I guess maybe 6-year-old at this point.
I think that's what I'm looking forward to, is seeing how they're portraying her, how old she will be, because I mean, it was definitely mentioned she'll be in this game.
Yeah.
Okay, but how much of a child is she?
Yeah. I think just because we know when she's born, she's going to be 6 years old. Because it's 5 years after the events of Diablo 2. So she could also be 7. Because it's like Diablo 2 takes place over a year.
Yes.
So if she was born, at the end of Diablo 1, and then everything, so she's 6 or 7 years old, give or take a year. So, I mean, it would be about around the time that it makes it seem, because it still seems like she's like a little girl. Like a very, very young little girl, in the events of the Order, but Cain isn't in Westmarch. He's now going and trying to hunt down the prophecy of the end of days, which we haven't had at least mentioned yet from him, because right now he's just concerned about finding the shards of the World Stone and destroying them to remove Baal's corruption from the world. So maybe that kind of takes place after the events, or we don't know what they have in store for Immortal. They could push the timeline forward, and eventually we have to play through the events of the Order, where we travel with Cain to Chaldeum, and then he goes on his like merry little adventure and what have you.
I hope somebody's listening that can make this happen.
Yeah. That'd
be great.
That's like the big aspect that's so appealing for Immortal, is because it's more of an MMO that you can have a living narrative, that you can have it change over time.
And I heard somebody describe it the other day as an MMO ARPG, which I never considered.
Yeah, that's actually one of the big points, from the last BlizzCon, the 2019, was that they made a clear distinction. Diablo 4 is an open world ARPG. Diablo Immortal is an MMO ARPG. And that's a distinction that we're making between the two games. Also, Immortal is on mobile. That too, but the clear one, open world versus MMO.
All right.
I sidetracked us really hard there. I'm sorry.
No, that was great information. I don't care what it says, because that touches a lot on the supplemental material that a lot of people don't even touch, like Sin War, Order, Book of Adria. They are all really good, and if you haven't had a chance to pick them up or to check them out, please go do so.
They're actually been releasing a lot of the older books on Audible now as well.
Yes.
They've been going back. I think that they've done the first 2 books in the Sin War. I don't think Veil of the Prophet has been done yet, but they are in the process of getting all 3 of the books of the Sin War trilogy as an audiobook. So but yeah, Vala. This is one of the ones where I think I mentioned briefly on the last show that we do get to see a little bit of Vala's story, that she's hanging out in the Shahrazar
It's what we already know.
Yeah, Yeah, it is one of those that it's like it basically was just a retelling of Hatred and Discipline, and in the last episode I was a little bit hard on that particular story, but because it's like been kind of like itching in the back of my skull, I think I might have come around a little bit towards it because
How
it,
so?
it's the same story, but it shows her growth as a character. Because in the story that we see, where it's basically the reliving of all of the negative emotions in her childhood and things like that,
Yes.
she's being forcibly made to live through it in the events of Diablo Immortal, and only with the help of the player character is she able to kind of like fight through it and then defeat, this demon Temptress to rescue Josen, her mentor. But in Hatred and Discipline, she goes in fully knowing what the demon is going to try and hit her with. She goes in
Yes.
ready, in order to go
Okay.
through and confront that, because she's using it as bait. Because she knows that once the demon goes through and preys into her memories and such, that she can use that as a basically kind of like a hook, line, and sinker. Because now, that was like one of my favorite parts, going back and rereading Hatred and Discipline. It's like, I can see you, because she gets to see the demon, because there's a shared connection there. You see inside my head, I see inside yours. And because now she's already been through that and has the better training and such, that she can use that weakness to her advantage, to that now she sees where the demon truly is. He can't hide behind the illusions anymore, and that's what she used to ultimately defeat him. And she gets the Vin Diesel pitch black eye shine out of the deal too.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate that, even though it's retelling more or less the same exact story, it does at least narratively show her growth as a character, between the brash, gung-ho person in Immortal versus the one that we see right before the events of Diablo 3. And going back and rereading that short story gave me a little bit more appreciation for the story that they told in Immortal.
I'll have to do the same, because I remember playing through it. Yes, what you're saying is exactly how I remember it.
Yeah.
But it seemed a little cast-offish to me when I was playing through it, when I actually got to play through it. I think if they played in a bit more to the struggle that she was having, and I'm not going to criticize acting on it or anything like that, but you see as the player character what is happening and what she is going through, but I don't think that the feeling that is meant to be conveyed by that is actually coming across.
Maybe if it was some sort of mechanic where, as the monsters are actually like doing damage to Vala, instead of you just like kill 8 monsters, type thing, kill 3 waves, that they're actually like coming in and making more use of some of like this kind of like, MMO style quests that like World of Warcraft has done over the years, where they're actually actively damaging her and her psyche as time goes on, and so you're on a timer. Maybe something like that. I definitely, I'm picking up what you're putting down to give you a little bit more sense that there's something traumatic really going on there.
And I think that's what it is, because she comes out the other end on that, like, hey, red scarf, yay.
Yeah.
But that's all it felt like to me was,
we grant you the scarf, but you do not have the rank of hunter yet.
Yeah, and I was just like, she got a cosmetic for reliving. she got a cosmetic for getting PTSD, like that. What did I just? That's why I really want to go back and play it again and reread it again. I remember it that I remember exactly how you describe reliving all past trauma and everything like that, and really struggling to get through and get past that it was all just an illusion, and you know, being able to fight it off with the player character's help. But I was like, okay, well, it really wasn't conveyed that it was difficult for her to deal with, other than, you know, some voice lines.
Yeah.
And, you know, I feel like fighting the visage of your dead parents or your drowned sister, you know, I feel like that should be a lot more traumatizing than just holding your head going, "No, stop."
Yeah.
And then all she gets out of it is a scarf, but not the title. I'm like, yeah, it felt very underwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, where it wasn't really, you know, properly conveying, you know, the difficulties that was being enacted and what was happening in the quest.
Especially because she's such a hugely liked character.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know people who main Demon Hunter in D3 and know her by name and love her, and only because of Diablo 3. They know nothing else about her. Or people that love to play her on HOTS. You know, they really don't know much about her, but she's a badass, and I love her as a character. Okay.
And the Demon Hunter had one of the best character intro cinematics too.
Oh yes, it really does. But you know, I feel like, I guess I feel like for someone who is such a well-known character and well-liked character and favored character, it doesn't really do her justice for the absolute utter hell that she has gone through to get where she is in Diablo 3.
Yeah. And that's one of the ones where, you know, something that we had talked a little bit, you know, like offline, is that I would like to see more from her, as well as like the origins of the Demon Hunters. You know, though I also acknowledge that that's just not in the game yet, because that's the Dreadlands. Yeah. You know, the Demon Hunters.
That's why I was like,
yeah,
it's the thing you got promised, but we haven't got it yet.
Yeah, because they were going through and talking about.
Promised it.
Yeah, is, you know, at the, you know, BlizzCon many years ago, that we would see, you know, Vala's story, but not just Vala's story. We would see more about the Demon Hunters as an organization and what they do, how they do things and such, and we'd see more of just their story. But we only just get, you know, Vala's story is like the only one. And there's one like little world quest for another Demon Hunter that's like hunting some demons that pops up occasionally when you're in the sea. You know, but not really a lot. But, you know, that's just one of those things that it's like the promise of Immortal is that eventually we will go to the Dreadlands. You know, eventually we will go to the headquarters of the Demon Hunters. You know, maybe we'll be able to see Natalia, you know, as she transitions from an assassin to a Demon Hunter. You know, and that we'll be able to go through and see some things like that. And then while we're there, we'll also see like Vala in training, and she'll, you know, talk maybe a little bit more about, you know, her ongoing progress or anything like that. But we'll have a bit more story involved with who they are, how they formed, because the Demon Hunters are a very recent organization.
Yes.
And so we might get a little bit more, you know, about them. At that point, should we ever, or I say if we ever, when we ever go to the Dreadlands.
Which brings up whether or not they're going to do DLC, but I won't even touch that because there's.
They've been pretty open about the fact that they're going to, you know, new zones, new classes, new stories. You know, it's things that they're going to be going and providing as a regular content, though they haven't given us an indication of what the cadence will be for that level of content. Yeah,
that's more my concern, is the cadence of it. I know with the Heliquary and like the ultra bad demon that you can unlock, they did make mention that that would be monthly, which is going to be intriguing because I did find it funny when Rax, Rob, and several others talked about how they said how it was stated that that boss is going to be very difficult, and you're like, okay, well, very difficult. I just got to learn the mechanics and dodge here, stay in place here, much like you have to do in certain bosses on Diablo 3. But going up against it for the first time, if you're walking in blind, holy shit, it is a wake-up call. If you think that when you complete the game you're just an ultra badass going up against Lassel, and I can't imagine what they have in store in the future and how that may grow exponentially, especially because the buffs going forward are a lot more too.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
And the thing that I love about that too is just the fact that that's like our first time seeing like actual kind of like MMO level raid mechanics in a boss fight, because it's one where we got to see like maybe a little bit of it in say like Belial and Malthael, in Diablo 3, but it's not really something that we see too much of in like an ARPG where you're actually interacting with the environment. And that you're actually having to be like really cognizant of the environment and its placement and stuff. And it's not set that it's going to always fall here. That you have to always be on the lookout of where it drops and get into position, near it and near the rocks to prevent you from getting hit by the one-shot mechanic. And I'm looking forward to the future of how they implement more stuff like that, besides just being an insane gear check. Because there is the two sides to LaSalle, and one is just the complexity of the encounter is a little bit more than what you might expect from like like a Diablo boss, and the second is, of course, it is an extreme gear check that
huge.
That you can't even really touch him until you're like 2700 offense rating, to even do decent damage against him, so there's a couple things going on there that even after you hit that goal and can do damage to him, he's still a decent fight.
Yes. Right on.
Yeah. We got Watson in chat there going through and asking, how did the Countess come back? And that's what we actually see a little bit of in the game. That there is like the dark woods have now been overtaken by these death blossoms, these blood roses, and so they're these creatures that like feed off of blood, and through kind of like channeling power from it, that they were able to kind of like revive the body of the Countess in order to bring her back, because she always was like going through and like using like in D2, she used virgin's blood and such, and these dark sacrifices in order to keep her youth eternally, and then now she's just kind of like straight up, she's a vampire, Yeah. And as we've come to learn that the souls of Nephilim and humans kind of function a little bit differently. They do have the ability to stay around and not just pass on and either regrow in the burning hells or be reformed from the crystal arch, that they have a little bit more substance, and that they don't necessarily have to move on to whatever the next realm of existence is that we don't quite know about, but that you have this overarching kind of realm of the dead, the unformed lands, whatever your culture describes it in the Diablo universe. And so a being that is that evil and powerful obviously had some sort of influence over the rogues in the area, was able to corrupt a few of them to enact these certain rituals and such, and then blood sacrifices to rebirth her eventually in the Forgotten Tower, just in time for us to come back and kick her ass again. Yep. Too bad she doesn't drop runes.
Oh gosh. that's explaining those mechanics as far as, because you brought up runes, rune words was like the number one question over and over and over again. I'm like, no. There are runes in the game, not how you think.
Yep.
It is something completely different.
So different.
I'm like, crowbar separation, like it, and I was explaining to people on stream earlier today, because of Alpha, you know, Paragon doesn't mean much right now. Your gear means a hell of a lot more, and the gear itself, and something I know you've touched on before, how you modify your gear, how you know, ascribe whatever legendary power you imbue it with, and the mechanics of the gear, what you reforge it with. It's going to be very difficult for people to write guides properly for this game, because everyone's playstyle is going to be different. And I'm excited about that, because I personally, I did not know, and this is an aspect I like and dislike. You can go to leaderboards on CR and click on literally anyone, find out what gear they have, what modifications they have, what skills they have, the Paragon tree they selected, everything like that. And I just got knocked down to number 4 on the monk, and I have to talk to somebody about that, because they knocked me out of place. But I
know no one's minion is up there at number 1. She's been rocking it.
And that's the thing. I looked at no one's minion's gear and skills and everything else. I went, we are doing the same exact thing. Never talked to each other, never done, you know, looked at anything else. We're doing the same exact thing. But I guarantee how we're doing it gameplay wise is completely different. And that's something that I really like about this game and the mechanics, is that you can learn so much from other players and other streamers, other content creators, but how you handle integrating that into your own playstyle and integrating it into what gear you have or what gear you might be searching out, I think is going to be very interesting to see how it develops down the line.
Yeah, because that's one of the ones that we're all still in that kind of like gearing up aspect, you know, and so it really comes down to that offense defense rating, and there's not a lot there. There's a very fine line where you can do higher level content than what your offense and defense rating allow you to do. And it's only in that one narrow band that it really matters your Paragon points, and it really matters your skill selection, your legendary selection, and such. Because otherwise, it kind of just becomes face roll. And so there's definitely a lot to analyze there. And I think even more so once we get into further stages of testing, whenever there becomes an actual upper limit. You know, and so you've maxed out your offense rating for the level of content that you're trying to do. And then now it's, you know, kind of min-maxing down what you want. You need to have this much willpower, because in order to do these mechanics, you have to have this much percentage resistances. Otherwise, their bleeds or their poisons are just going to wreck you, you know, XYZ, yada, yada. But it is interesting that the kind of like the mechanics is one of the questions, you know, that I remember Steven and I used to get all the time on the show is, oh, I have 200,000 damage. What torment level can I do? You know, it's like there was never a good, clear indicator in Diablo 3, like at any point in its existence where, oh yeah, before you do Torment 6, you have to have 1,000,000 damage. You know, it's like, oh yeah, as a barbarian you have to have 1,000,000 damage, but like as a demon hunter you only need like 300,000. You know, now in Immortal you can go through and say, yeah, if you want to solo LaSalle, don't go in there until you have 2700 offense rating. I can now at least give you a clear indicator. This is the level that you should be if you want a chance at going through and doing it. You want to do it before you hit that point? Enjoy the challenge.
You are one of the top players to play the game so far, my friend.
Yep.
Because I don't want to delve too much into it, but I think that is going to be in and of itself its own bragging right leaderboard. Because you have the CRs, you're going to have Immortals and Shadows, but I think that will be its own like bragging right. Is I downed the latest monthly by myself, and I'm only I did it with blues.
Yeah. No, I did it with my Paragon unequipped.
Yeah.
Even though technically you can't do that in this game, you can't unlearn skill points, but you can like say select the Survivor tree instead of Vanquisher, and diminish your power that way. But
I defeated Lasalle with Treasure Hunter.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting with what they're gonna do as far as like that in-game content, because when you go and you look at it, eventually there is an upper limit as to how much offense and defense rating that you can get. You can only upgrade secondary gear to 5. You can only upgrade primary gear to 20.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course you can eke out a little bit more by having all of your equipment triple stat, and then you can eke out a little bit more by having well rolled triple stat. And then you can eke out a little bit more by having well rolled high numbered triple stat, and then you can have the well played triple stat gear with good magical offenses like crit and damage taken and stuff like that. And then all that you have left is Paragon. And we know that the Paragon cap is whatever the number of levels that there are. So like right now there are 5 trees. Vanquisher, Survivor, Treasure Hunter, Gladiator, and Soldier. So there's the 5 trees that you can unlock. So the max is Paragon 500, because you'll eventually be able to put levels into all of that. As it stands right now, there is nothing in the game that will challenge you at that level of gear. As it stands right now, that people are running around with Paragon 100 in max level 20 gear, that there's nothing that challenges them.
Yeah, even on Hell 3, they're still steamrolling through a lot of content.
Yeah, their health
going and facing big guy. I've seen it done with like 4 or 5 people, and that's it.
Yeah, people soloing Hell 3 dungeons, which once you get to Hell 2, the dungeons are their flat difficulty 4 players. If you go in with less than 4 players, you're giving yourself a challenge, because everything is scaled as if it's a 4-player party. But people are soloing Hell 3 dungeons in a decent amount of time, with some of that higher level gear, just because they can. But what will raids look like? Or is PvP going to be one of those few things that will actually go and challenge them? Going against other people that are Paragon 500? Because there will be no like seasons or ladders as we know it in previous Diablo games. There are seasons where they go through and they add in like a new Paragon tree, just continues to grow from where you're at. So eventually when they add new content in, they're going to have to add something that caters to the brand new player that's starting for the first time, while also add something to the person that's Paragon 500.
Mm-hmm.
Which is going to take a long ass time. Because there's like the experience caps, there's ways around it, and things like that. But it's going to take a very long grind in order to go through and get to that point.
Even the way around it, because Rex and I were talking about it, and it is legitimately the top tier players are in legitimately a race of their own. It's like you have human, non-human, and then you have blasters. And the blasters can sit there and run the same dungeon or same instance for 14, 18 hours straight, continually every day. And they'll be the ones to hit max XP cap on 3 different characters and, you know, shoot past everybody else Paragon wise. But even that being said, hitting Paragon 500 is still gonna take a long while.
A long while.
It isn't like, and that's somebody goes, oh, you're only Paragon 20. I'm like, this is actually hard.
Yeah.
This is actually hard to get Paragon, guys. It's not like D3.
I remember people going through and like posting screenshots of their playtime and stuff, and it's like, I think at the time I was like Paragon 20, and I was, you know, like, I think 58 hours in the game. That was, you know, Paragon 20, and I had no alts or anything like that, and it's just like, well, this is gonna take a while.
Mm-hmm.
This is gonna take a while. My goal is usually if I can get 1 or 2 Paragon levels a day, I'm good. I'm happy with that. You know, I'm happy with that level of progress. You know, just everything else that's going on. I know I skipped. I went right past like the weeks in gaming at the beginning, and that's bad. That's on me. But as of this upcoming Friday, it'll be 2 weeks since my second shot. I'll be fully vaccinated, and I'll actually feel comfortable going out in public. Still mask and all that. Still got to take all the precautions because it's only, you know, still only like 95% efficiency. But there is a Warhammer tournament that's coming up in June.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I want to participate in, but I don't have a painted army. And so that is like, it's going to be late going through and getting off of this, so I'm not going to have time to go through and do it. I've been trying to spend about 30-40 minutes at the end of every night going through and painting models, because it's a requirement to participate. It's an official ITC game, so I have to have everything painted and based in order to actually play. It just has to be battle ready, so just 3 colors in a based miniature. But I want to go through and do it because it's been over a year since I last played a game of Warhammer, and I need this just to begin to return to normalcy. But that also means that is time that I am not spending playing Immortal, you know?
Yeah. Well, best of luck to you, my friend.
Oh, I mean, it's going to be like, I have not played a single game of this edition, so I will hope to win 1 out of my 4 games that day, but I do not have high hopes or expectations. You know, I'm doing it just for the fun of it. But yeah, you know, it's all you have. You got something that else that, you know, is going to take your time or attention away. You know, well, I'm not hitting Paragon cap this week, you know.
Yeah. I had my birthday last weekend, and you know, people wanted to see RE8. All right, I played it, and then I didn't finish it, so I played it the next day.
Yep.
And then I still didn't finish it because I had work prior to that, and then I finished it last night. That's 3 days that I didn't get to where I needed to be / wanted to be in Diablo Immortal, but that's the nature of it. And the same can be said for D3 if you're pushing GRs all the time.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be in the top elite in any game, you cannot stop.
Yep.
You have to, and that's why I said blasters are like their own race, because those are the people that will not stop. Those are the people that can never get bored with it. They continually enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And it's almost cathartic for them. They'll sit there and that is what they do.
Yep. That is exactly it. And that's one of those ones where it's like, you know, and the thing that I actually enjoy about like the monetization system that they have that we've seen so far, I will say, still in alpha, we don't know the full specifics on it, but like the monetization system that we've seen so far, the power that you get by going through and dumping real money into it, like with legendary crests and legendary gems, is nowhere near the amount of power that you get from just playing the game. Like you cannot whale this game.
I love that the auction house does not have items.
Yeah, like
it's gems, runes, legendary gems, and that's really it.
Yeah, and the legendary gems, their ranks, going through and getting like a fully maxed out like rank 5 legendary gem is not that big of a power increase, and will just be subsumed by someone that got, he's got like 5 paragon on me. That there you go. There you have it. So
it's whales have been talked about a lot, and I'll admit that I will be one of them, but it still will not make up for skill in the game and time played.
No.
Period. It never will.
A whale will only be better than other players in their same time played category. So in order for a whale to beat Rax, you have to play as much as Rax, and then spend the money in order to try and succeed him. And even then, he's playing so much that he's going to be getting tons of those legendary gems and stuff like that. You're not that much farther ahead.
And Rax is up there, but I really want to see who's even going to contend with Rob, and how hard he is pushing, and how far ahead of everyone he is getting. Because, like I said, last I saw, I was logged on right before this. I think he was like Paragon 115, 116. He was the first one. He was the first one to 100.
Yeah, he was the first one to go through and unlock Gladiator. I remember watching the stream where they're going through and testing the stuff, and how the trap is literally all that it does. It places a trap on the ground. It doesn't do anything. And he's gonna be the first one to soldier. No one has seen that tree before. So maybe next week at his current rate.
At his current rate, yeah. And that's the thing is, man, do I appreciate the fuck out of those guys. Not only are they good people to share their knowledge and their experience with other people, stop by their streams. They talk to chat all the time. If you got a legitimate question about what's going on, they'll answer it. And if they don't, then their chat will, because I'll be one of the people in their chat. But I will say I appreciate them so much more for going through and being the person to dedicate their life right now to Alpha, so that we can see what is going to happen. Because it has to be someone, and they're choosing to be that someone.
Yep. And it's the one thing that you still have to kind of like drill into people's skulls. The game is fun and has enough content to dedicate that amount of time to. And we're still just in alpha. Well, just imagine what it's going to be like once everything else is unlocked.
Rob is currently 117.
117. And going strong. Yep. But
and he loves it too. I love that he loves it and still is enjoying it.
And that should just be the clear indicator. God, what's his played time?
Oh, I don't.
Like over 200 hours.
Yeah.
It has to be over 200 hours by now.
Yeah.
It is getting late, so I think that this is kind of gonna close us out for the episode. And again, I would like to give a big thank you to you, man, for going through, coming on the show here with me, going through and chatting. Oh, by all means, I love going through and having guests, on the show. And it's just like one final like shout out. Please tell the lovely folks at home where they can find you, across the interwebs.
All right. Twitch.tv/akaSnuggie. It's GGIE, much like the reverse cultist robes. They owe me lots in intellectual property money, but they haven't gotten back to me yet. Also, same everywhere else. Twitter, Instagram, akaSnuggie. And that's really about it. I play video games. I stream 4 days a week, and um, if you like humorous, mature adult content with a side of wholesome, that is what we're all about.
Are there dick jokes involved?
I have a command for penis.
Well, then
It is my partner literally yelling penis.
Well, then I
And
think we found the right place.
and just be prepared, everyone. Will say I'm daddy, and I'm a bear, which both are factual, ish,
ish. Well, there's some leeway there.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, definitely appreciate you going through, coming on the show here. There will be direct links to his Twitter and his Twitch account, in the YouTube comments below whenever this goes through and gets posted on there. But if you enjoyed the show, if you're new here going through checking me out, please feel free to go through, follow the show. I stream every other Wednesday at twitch.tv/BlizzPro at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. You can also follow the show at the WM Workshop on Twitter. You can also email me with any thoughts, feedback, questions, that you might have about anything Diablo related over at Westmarch Workshop at blizzpro.com. And then you can also follow me personally. I'm at Neinball Gamer on Twitter, or I stream very, very occasionally at twitch.tv/Neinball. I've been trying to stream a little bit, but things have been hectic these last couple of weeks between just a lot of work and real life stuff that's been going on. I do hope to maybe get back into the swing of things this weekend and get some more Immortal streams up, but we'll see how things work out as we have some more family activities planned for this weekend, and we'll see how those things go. But with that, again, thank you everybody that went through and stopped by the show. I do appreciate anybody going through, coming out here, giving the show a listen. I like to talk about Diablo, and no one can stop me. And so with that, I wish you all a good evening, and I will catch